Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another update from WotC's perpetual retardation. Um, this time, WotC is removing half races from its books because they think the actual uh, half races are inherently racist. As we all know, uh, everything in the world is racist, including the air you breathe. So, of course, half race is going to be banned because WotC thinks that the idea of racial mixing is inherently wrong. So, because they like to equate real life races to fantasy ones, orcs are black people and all that stuff. They're now basically saying that a half orc, which is half white, half black person, I guess. Um, the idea of them mixing together and creating an offspring that's half and half is racist. Now you can't make this shit up. I when I read this first, I thought it was a joke, especially when you hear how they're fixing it, what the actual solution is, in case you haven't already heard. So yeah, they're removing half races because these guys are the racists. I mean, if you haven't figured it out by now, this is actual racism. This is actual racism. The people who are telling you that they're removing stuff because they're afraid of being called racist are the racists. They're the racists. I mean, the idea that racial mixing is fucked up in some sense is insane. I mean, you can have that ideology if you want, but then don't try to convince the world that you're basically doing this not to be called a racist, while the very act of doing this is inherently racist. What they're doing is inherently racist by saying that the racial mixing is wrong. I mean, it's insane. WotC is completely insane. The people who work there are just. Anyway, let's keep going here. So, I think the main issue here is that, I mean, this is my take on this, is that it's not just half races that's the quote unquote issue here. Is I think the whole term race, how it's used in a fantasy setting versus a real life sort of how it's used in real life, is just wrong. Not that the term race is racist in a fantasy setting, but actually the other way around. I can make a pretty good argument how the term race is actually racist in real life. Now, this isn't some sort of woke point, or me trying to get on board with the wokeists here, but this is just, hear me out. The actual term race does inherently mean different species, because then, if that's not the case, why is it called the human race? Right? It implies that everyone, the same race can intertwine, right? You can have offspring from people within the same race. Therefore, white people, Asian people, black people, Latino people, whatever, are not a different race. They're a different ethnicity, because race implies different species. If you have a different species, then you have a different genome. If you have a different genome, you can't produce offspring. That's why a dog and a cat can't have a dog cat, right? But a certain breed of a dog can have offspring with a different breed of a dog, because they're both dogs, right? Same with cats. And that's how humans are, essentially. We're different, we're the same race, but we're different variations of that race, right? And that's why we can produce offspring. So the term, when people use race in real life, when they talk about different ethnicities, which is what they really are, they're ethnicities, is wrong. If you want to go in, if you want to be technical about it. Now, of course, through the years, that term has become well established and everyone knows what you're talking about. But that's WotC's fault for not figuring this out when they were making their game. Or I guess, the mistake was made when they were making different quote-unquote races like orcs and elves and whatever. Because if there really are different species, then they can't reproduce, right? Because of the different genomes, which means that they're not even... They messed this up. They mixed all this stuff together when they really shouldn't have. I'm not talking about racial mixing. I'm talking about you should have called them something different at the beginning if that's how you wanted to go. If you wanted to have the whole half race thing happen, then you should have called them something different than race. But because you called them race, now you're worried that it's gonna have real life connotations. It's just one giant clusterfuck. It's just one giant mess of terminology that's gone awry. But that's kind of my point, which is what I'm saying is you should have used the term ethnicity in the beginning if that's where you wanted to go. If not, then you should have just said, well, orcs and humans can't have offspring, right? Because they're different species and therefore they're incompatible genetically, so they can't have offspring. But then I guess they were afraid that would have been racist for some reason, even though we're talking about imaginary races. I don't know, this whole thing is just one giant mess. But either way, banning half races isn't gonna fix anything. At all. So, what they did was... what they did was they chose a different term for half race. And now they're calling it, and I quote, children of the differently humanoid kinds. Now, when I read this, I thought that it's a joke. I literally thought this was a joke. I read this and I thought, children of the different... I mean, this is satire, except it's not satire. It's real life. This is something that you would write in a satire article about this issue. It's like, oh, what are you gonna call it? Children of the differently humanoid kinds? And then WotC said, yeah, that's exactly what we're gonna call them. Because we're fucking idiots. Like, who the hell is going to use... First of all, it's too long. Let's just get that out of the way. It's too long. Who the hell is gonna reference that every time? You're gonna have this weird acronym, CDHK. Yay, more alphabet stuff. Let's do more of that. So this whole term is insane. Different humanoid kinds? So they are the same race? What the fuck are you saying? Like, it's... You keep retconning your own shit every turn. It's like, they're not the same race, but they are a same race. They can reproduce, but they can't. I mean, they're separate, but they're the same. Like, what the fuck? Just make up your goddamn mind. If you fucked it up so many years ago, just let it stay the way it is. Everyone knows what the deal is by now. You know? Changing it now and retconning stuff isn't going to fix everything because you fucked up the terminology to begin with. Now, but this is all being done because of this fear of being called racist, and this fear is now literally beyond comprehension, at least to me. Like, this is just some prick in a blog probably writes how WotC is inherently racist, and then WotC loses their shit and shits their pants and keeps bending the knee further and further, even though now they're like, just flying flat on the ground, face down at this point. And just, do more. It's never enough. It's never enough. Because it is never enough. It's never going to be enough. They're always going to push the envelope. They're always going to, give them an inch, they take a mile. They keep raising the bar or lowering it, and as the case may be. So, I think WotC's digging the hole so far down now that they are past the point of no return. Everything they do, every press release, everything they say, like, oh, look what we're doing, we're making things better, is just keep digging that hole. Just retardation beyond comprehension. Let's just keep digging. And this stuff is literally going to create a D&D community that's, actually, I hate calling it a community because it's not a community, it's a hobby, but they keep calling it a community, and that's exactly what they're creating. They're creating a community that's going to be gated, like a little TTRPG cul-de-sac that's going to cater to a very small group of fanatics. Because these are fanatics. Like, who else other than a fanatic would ask for changes like this? I mean, it's lunacy. So that's my take on it. I'm not hoping for anything to get better in terms of WotC. They're just drilling down to the Earth's core at this point. They're beyond rescue. Everyone's trying to tell them, do this differently and get back on track, but they're not going to. They're deep in the ideology, and they want to get all the way down to the core, where they will melt in their little gated community of retarded, delusional people who are gonna play their virtual D&D 1 crap. So that's it for now. So like, sub, and I'll see you later, I'm sure very soon, because this stuff just keeps coming out one day after the other.